All right. Our current events update. Israel at war. Today's date is 9/7/25. No change on the stats. Still continuing the war that began October 7th, 2023. I knew there was a 23 in there somewhere. No changes, but the useful idiots continue their nonsense. If you saw in the news, there were massive crowds protesting in Jerusalem, and they are being kind of, the fires are being stoked by politicians who are saying that if Netanyahu goes through with what he's going to go through with in Gaza, that it'll endanger hostages. I got news for you, they're not in good hands right now. And we don't even know how many of those 20 are actually alive. It says tens of thousands chant against Netanyahu deal. And of course, Hamas says it's open to any ceasefire deal. One that doesn't mean they give up the hostages and surrender. But they were chanting things, and I'm sure it's in Hebrew, but they were calling Netanyahu a traitor. Mass Jerusalem crowd pans PM is how they put it here. I think this is Times of Israel, if you see there. As hostages, mom calls him worst foe of Jewish people. So this happens, this always happens when there's a war, even when it's justified. Believe it or not, during World War II, there was a lot of this. They don't cover it in the history classrooms, and even documentaries don't mention a lot of it. But you always have a very loud, tiny minority who will try to do everything they can to defeat you from inside. Even when the war is justified, I mean, you know. And the traitors are those using the hostages as a weapon against the Israeli war effort, not Prime Minister Netanyahu and his administration. And we believe that the Bible has given Israel the duty to do what they're doing. And of course, we say this over and over, there are too many civilian and innocent people who count as casualties, whether they're killed or maimed or hurt really bad or whatever, in every war. And right now, Israel, the number and percentage of such victims of this war from Israel's perspective is lower than any other major conflict in human history. But that tells you what you're dealing with the news media and all the propagandists out there. Thankfully, the present U.S. administration is staying on course. Hamas must release hostages and end the war, senior White House official tells I-24 News. Trump's overarching commitment is to not being constrained by failed frameworks of the past, end quote. And the talking heads and all the rhino Republicans, along with the typical Democrat voices, are all trying to tell Trump to do what we've always done. And that is to always accommodate and appease the Islamists so that we know one thing for sure. There'll be another war with Hamas. If Hamas is not destroyed, there will be another war. Just bank on it. Amen. So we applaud President Trump's resilience and stand with Israel against Hamas, while the French continue to aid and abet the enemies of Israel. The French PM Macron is pushing for a two-state solution in Israel. There can't be. Palestinians say there's only one solution, and that is for the Jews to be defeated from the river to the sea. There have been numerous efforts and even agreements in writing to allow a two-state solution already, and the Palestinians will not have it. So get over it. If you think there's going to be a two-state solution, you're a fool or an ignoramus, because you have to be ignorant of the facts and the history, or you have to be a fool and believe that what we've seen over and over and over and over and over isn't going to happen again. And so it's really cruel and inhumane for us to demand that the Jews continue to treat Hamas like a legitimate foe. They're not legitimate. And they need to be completely defeated as thoroughly as the Allies defeated the Nazis, or more so. By the way, the good news is that his poll numbers have tanked. Good. He's down to something like 15% approval rating. That's what this quote. The guy has a 15% popularity rating in France. It's not our job to help him out. Amen, amen. So with that news, we'll continue to stand with Israel. Who knows, something may have happened since about what, I haven't looked really, I didn't look much this morning, so something could have happened since 8 o'clock this morning. That's how things are changing and evolving in that situation, but we'll stand with Israel, amen?
Amen.
Other headlines, the Democrat Marxist death cult is godless. Just to remind you, it's not just Marxist. Marxism is godless. Communism is godless. This is a Virginia Democrat senator denying that our rights come from God. And this is something repeated over and over by these leftist Marxists.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the Creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their Creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
I think it's fitting that he's got his glasses right there, because that's about how well he sees right now. He's looking through his forehead, not through his eyeballs. But that was Hillary Clinton's 2016 running mate. If she would have won, he'd been your vice president. And he says that he says, scary that you think your rights come from God and not from the government. Tim Kaine's his name. He's too wicked and stupid for words. I'm just being flat honest with you. He's too wicked and stupid for words. These are screenshots of the Declaration of Independence. That all men are created equal, that they're endowed by who? Their Creator, not their government.
Right.
With certain unalienable rights.
Amen.
So it's just scary that someone calling themselves an American senator would pretend to think that our rights don't come from God, when that's what the very foundation of our country says in the founding document, the Declaration of Independence.
Amen.
So it's a different spelling, but the same spirit. Not as Kaine, who was of that wicked one.
Yeah.
That Kaine in Virginia is also of that wicked one.
Yes.
Here's a great moment of TV with the takedown of the Sodomite trans cult. As a guest on Pierce Morgan explains that people are done with the trans thing.
People are done with the trans thing. They've had enough of it. This whole, they're just kind of regular people like you and me, but happen to dress up like with. No, that's not really what's going on.
Listen close.
Unleashed an entire fleet of mentally ill lunatics on the public, and now we have to deal with the fallout of it. We have to deal with having to deal with these people on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people are sick of it. This guy is just echoing the thing which is in a lot of our minds, which is that, hey, we're kind of tired of these mentally ill lunatics in our streets. We really are.
Ava?
I find that really frightening. I mean, why would you say someone was mentally ill because they feel they were born in the wrong body?
Listen.
I mean, does that give you pleasure or joy to just stamp down?
Listen to his response. It's great.
Personhood. What's the intent here?
Do you value truth? Because
I value truth, yeah.
Good, then here's what's true. What's true is that if you're a man, you can't be a woman. And if you're a woman, you can't be a man. That's what's true.
I don't think it's helpful to get into
Hang on. I'll let you talk, but let me finish. Your attempt to gaslight everybody into the opposition of this truth builds resentment. And it's that resentment that you have to deal with. And it's you have done it to yourself. Like most of these things, the left does it to themselves. It's very obvious. People are not going to. The trans agenda has stalled, and it stalled out the LGBTQ agenda with it, because you're trying to gaslight people into something which is obviously not true.
That's a clinic. I mean, that's all he was doing was being honest and not worried about being PC. He didn't have to, get even animated or anything. He just spoke the truth. I don't agree with this guy on everything, but this thing he did right there with this trans cult one is exactly right on. That's gaslighting. They just look at you and they say, oh, does that make you feel good to tell somebody, a man, that he's not a woman? It doesn't matter whether it makes me feel good or not. It's true. He's not a woman. It's not about our feelings. So I just thought you'd enjoy that, but you also could learn from it. The UK has gone full-blown Islamist-Marxist police state. Some of you are aware of the things going on over there, but here's a little cartoon that I thought you'd enjoy. A little fella sitting there across the table from somebody. One guy asked the other, "What's it like living in the UK?" The guy says, "I can't complain." He said, "That's good." "No, I mean I can't complain. I might go to jail." That's a true story. That's exactly what's going on in the United Kingdom and Britain right now, is that they are locking people up. This is a comedian. I don't know hardly anything about him. I don't know whether he's a clean comedian or not. It doesn't matter. What he said was true, and he's got locked up. His name is Graham Linehan, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was arrested by armed police as he stepped off a plane at Heathrow. His great crime? Posting 3 tweets. By the way, he was in America when he did it, and he flew back and was arrested. Posted 3 tweets mocking transgender ideology while real criminals walk free every day. I mean, there's so many examples in the UK where gang rapes are taking place and they don't punish the people. And there's a whole thing, if you're not aware of it, there's been for years now, the government, political leaders in the United Kingdom and several European countries have unleashed these immigrants on their people, and they're raping their women at 3 or 4 times the rate that is, even already there with the criminals. We already have rapists among us. We don't need more. And the politicians are basically just sacrificing their own people for their globalist, WEF, antichrist agenda. This is his response. "I just got arrested again. I arrived back in London to discover the UK is still a police state run by trans activists." And then he announced he's now got representation. He's going to sue. So hopefully he wins. And I don't know, I have to know anything about him. I just hope he wins and they shut this stuff down in the UK. May the Lord grant him victory. Amen? Amen. And I want to show you this. This is a sign of the times. This is, the headline says, "The New Jacobins." That's from English history, or from French, from those who, King Louis XIV, and those who beheaded, I don't know how many were beheaded, but it was a big thing during France, the revolution in France. Guillotines return as form of political expression. Free, what?
All I can say, if you want to know who I am you, and I'm the people.
And so you've come here to Malcolm X Park today with a giant guillotine. Tell me about the intent behind that.
What I'll say is that it's art, it's open to interpretation, it's objective. I certainly have my own reasons. There's people I care about who are in jeopardy and going to probably be losing their rights to exist how they would like to love how they would like to be who they are meant to be.
He said a free Palestine event, but he's there with a guillotine because he's there because of the queers. Who, if they were in Palestine, would be thrown off the roof? I mean, you just think of the insanity of these people. But they're both driven by the same spirit. Satan's movement is not a unity movement, it's a chaos movement. And so he'll have this guy and this guy against Christ. They're actually against each other. And they're bringing out the guillotines. This was Jonathan Turley, by the way. You see him on different places like Fox News and others. He's an attorney. But he said, he was talking about a Palestinian rally where they had a sign next to a guillotine that says, "We got the guillotine, you better run." Now, right now, they're not going to, they can't do this. But they're showing you who they are. When they tell you who they are, believe them. It says those words could have easily been expressed at the turn of the century as French Jacobins and other groups called for the heads of the wealthy and privileged class. in France. And these words also reflect the spirit of Antichrist. Come to you right at the end there, Martin. Look, Revelation 20, verse 4. That's the spirit of Antichrist. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were what? Beheaded. The guillotine represents the spirit of Antichrist. And you don't take the mark, they're going to publicly, probably as long as the internet's still on and TVs are still up and running, they're going to show it worldwide, people having their heads hacked off. Hey, it's already in places like Saudi Arabia and places that are majority Islamists, they still hacking heads off. Right now, they take a big sword and just whack. Yeah. Still going on. President wraps guillotine sign at anti-corruption rally as incitement. They brought one out for Netanyahu. Wow. At an anti-corruption rally, as they call it. Guillotine carried by governor's mansion as Puerto Rico protests escalate dramatically. I mean, just think of that. Did you see one when you were down there?
Thankfully not.
And then there's all kinds of articles and everything trying to urge these people, you know, you can protest, but you got to leave those guillotines at home. Why would they have to do that? This is a 150-year-old guillotine with a few dents on the blade. It was sold Wednesday in Paris. Somebody bought one. This is an anti-ICE protest with a guillotine. And we could go on and on with the screenshots. But it sure is getting dark in these last days, ain't it? Yeah. Even bringing out the guillotine. Some of them are fake, some of them are artistic, but they actually have physical, literal guillotines in some of these places. And that's what we were talking about earlier. 2 Peter 1:19, we have also a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn and the day star rise in your hearts. We have nothing to fear. FDR was crazy when he said we have nothing to fear but fear itself. He's a liar. I don't care if you're an FDR fan or not. He's a socialist liar. Amen. We have one thing to fear, and that's God. Amen. And as we discussed in Sunday school, even though we don't fear going to hell, if you have any sanity at all, you still have a healthy fear for His power. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of Him, even as a child of God. Amen. Amen. And that's why Satan is attacking our source for this sure word of prophecy with corrupt versions of the Bible. New version translators don't want folks worshiping Jesus. The real Bible says this, Matthew 8:2, and behold, there came a leper and worshipped Him. And those of you who can recognize the Greek characters there, proskuneo is translated worship. But compare that to the corrupt Vatican versions. Down on the bottom, proskunē changed to and knelt before Him. Not worshipped, and knelt before Him. Wow. Why would you do that? There's the legacy standard, substandard version is what I should have said. And behold, a leper came to him and was bowing down. Just like you would sensei, or something like that. Other references to Jesus being worshipped but deleted in corrupt Vatican versions is Matthew 9:18. While He spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped Him. ESV, and knelt before Him. And like I said, I could go on and on showing all these different examples of it. They didn't remove every single reference to worship of Jesus, but with each revision, they remove more. It's that slippery slope. You accepted the ASV, most people didn't. But then RSV, 1954 came out. Most people rejected it because they removed the virgin birth. Well, they put that back and came out with that. By the way, it was published by the Communist World or National Council of Churches. That's the ESV today. What almost all Christians rejected in 1954 with the Revised Standard Version, they put back the word virgin in that one place, left almost all the corruptions in, made other corruptions, and now it's out called the ESV. Yeah. And then came the New American Standard, and then the NIV, and there's like 100 different new translations out, and they keep just getting worse and worse and worse. It's like the frog in the pot, slow boil. They change it a little bit at a time. You get used to this change, then they add another one. You get used to that one, they add another one. That's what's going on. Yep. Be informed, pray, and act accordingly. Amen? Amen. All right. Nancy, you were first.
In the Catholic Church, in the Mass, when you go in, they have those wooden benches that go down, and people go in there with the rosaries and kneel.
Yeah. But they're worshiping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're worshiping false
Yeah.
teaching.
Martin?
I was about to say, what you were showing, just yet another reason to thank God that He gave us the right to keep and bear arms.
Amen.
Amen. We have a means of protection.
I think after the rapture, that's going to be one of the first things the new government in the United States of America will do, suspend the Constitution and the Second Amendment. Yeah. I believe after the rapture, even before the confirmation of the covenant, Daniel 9:27, maybe even before that, the new government will be installed, suspending the Bill of Rights, because what's left will be like Tim Kaine, and they will say, you don't get your rights from God, you get them from us, and we're taking them from you.
Yeah, well, in that case, then there'll be a revolution.
There will be. But there'll be probably 10 or 15, 20 million people not a part of that revolution because they've been raptured. So they'll have, a lot smaller number of people.